A pleasant good evening, Samoa, for the sake of our non-Samoan speaking audience. Pleasant good evening and welcome to another edition of our Tulino program. Tonight, we have the great pleasure of welcoming our special guest on our show tonight. He'll be appearing on a couple of our episodes. It's a pleasure to welcome Dr. Peter Baofu. Dr. Peter Baofu is an American visionary and author of 144 theories and visions, with 178 scholarly books and many other numerous articles that he's written, and he's well known all over the world. He's been around the world on various television stations, and also his books and his scholarly writings are used on various universities around the world. It is a pleasure to welcome you, Dr. Baofu, to NUS TV this evening.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Okay, well, to start off, I thought I would just talk a little bit about yourself, and it's your opportunity just to tell the audience who you are and what you are about. And I've noticed that you've been all over the world on various television stations doing interviews. And I wanted you just to touch base on why is it important for you just to get the message out to people about yourself.
Yeah, you had mentioned some of my works already, so maybe I can just add a few more. I'm the author of 178 books so far in all fields of knowledge in relation to the mind, nature, society, and culture. That is, in all fields of the formal sciences, the natural sciences, the social sciences, and the humanities. And I try to provide different solutions and visions, and I have provided more than 145 different new visions and theories of the human future in relation to the mind, nature, society, and culture. Not just for one culture, one society, and one specific group, but in the entire planet Earth. And that's why I have been in more than 127 different countries by now, and shall be more. So that is the global project that I'm doing, because I'm trying to provide solutions to global problems. And that's why it's so important for me to go to so many different countries. And as you just said, I was also interviewed on TV around the world in relation to some of the solutions that I propose to solve some of the global problems on Earth.
Wow. The word that comes to mind is genius. We talked about solution to global problems. Now, for a small country like Samoa, we are not immune from the global issues that are happening around the world. As you would know, when something happens in Europe or in America or wherever in the world, it also affects our small island nation. Now, I'm coming towards the latter part of our program. Coming to general education, this is, of course, a university institution. What do you see as the role of education moving forward? We've talked a lot about the research, and that goes into a lot of the things that matter to human beings. And what does education, tertiary, like university education, how does that fit into all of this? Would it help bring about those amazing changes that we've talked about, or would it cause more problems?
Education, just like anything else in life, is good and bad. I have been a professor for many years of my life, so that is also my I also written books on education too, and also my life experience, my job is also to be a professor, university professor. So I know a lot about different problems about education, but let me cut the story short. Education is just like the internet, just like drugs, just like medicine. You can use that for the good ways, you can also use that for the bad ways, and education has been used for good and bad. Education has been used for propaganda, even in science. In the name of science, science has been also propounding a lot of propaganda too. And education, the education institution have been responsible for spreading all these kind of ideas. In the older time, people believe in absolute space and time. And education has been teaching students there's absolute space and time. And in the older day, they say that the earth is flat That's what they believe in, and the institutions have been propounding that the earth is flat, but this is turned out to be misinformation and propaganda. They may believe in it, but the point is that that's not quite true. So, so education has been doing a lot of, even in democratic system, we used to think that in democracy, people talk about the truth. In dictatorship, it's all propaganda. That's not. This is also a propaganda too. The propaganda, let's say in the West, is one of the most sophisticated propaganda that I have ever seen. The misinformation is so pervasive in Western societies that only some of the best minds, some of them very educated, very smart, and they really understand what is going on. But the majority of people believe in many of the propaganda that they constantly receive on a daily basis. We call that political correctness. And that's a major no-no here. In America, for example, there are a lot of things that people believe in, and you do not question. If you question them, they call you names. Yeah. It's also yes, it's not just in the U.S., but also in Samoa, by the way. Yes. If you start questioning the Samoan way of life, and you will see what's going to happen to you. I mean, I'm not going to mention them, but you talk about the tribal system, you talk about the communal way of living, you talk about the religion, you talk about the identity crisis, you talk about homosexuality. Wait until you say something which is the contrary. For people like me, I don't live here, I live. So they probably just ignore me because I'm not. But suppose you live here, you work here, you are the head of so and so and so. Do you think they let you go away with that? It's true everywhere on earth. You go to Scandinavia, the same thing. One of the things that I learned from people that I spoke to from Scandinavia is that Scandinavian countries is one of the most politically correct societies on earth. There are certain things that you have to say. You can say that in private, but in public, if you say something like that, you could be ostracized. So this is education here. Education is not doing what you think it is. So what is the solution then? I think there are a lot of different solutions. It depends on your own ideologies, again, your value system. I do think that education in terms now is also related to the economy, because now if you look at the economic system, because I have written books about that too, is that in the older days, you have the primary sector of the economy, like agriculture, mining, fishing, and all that. And then you have the secondary sector of the economy, manufacturing. And then you have the tertiary sector about services like banking, and insurance, and all that. And now you have the quaternary sector about education, for example, government services. And now you have the quinary sector, which is about charity and all that. I do think that in the future, they will go into more and more different sectors. That will be about space exploration. They will affect all of these sectors. And in the future, especially what I call post-capitalism. Another theory that I did not mention to you is another theory that I propose. I call it post-civilization. In the sense that civilization as we understand on Earth will not last. It's too primitive. Civilization culture will evolve in a different forms. I call it post-civilization. It will change the way that we think about barbarity and civilization. And in that way, and there are different versions, of course, spirituality become more and more important in future way of life. And that's why capitalism cannot survive in that environment. It becomes too primitive, too materialistic. It does not satisfy the highest potential of the human mind. The human mind is also moving to the post-human one. So the human mind that we have now will become very primitive, even though now we think that we are the most advanced, especially in the US. But when we look back in the future, this is one of the most primitive minds in the history of the mind, or minds in the future. So I'm looking further into the future. So that is the education that we are moving towards, and we have to come in terms of that. In the future, instead of glorifying capitalism and democracy, they will be glorifying post-capitalism, post-democracy, and post-civilization. And then the state will continue.
Those will be the conversation in that time.
it will be the dominant conversation. People will argue until the end of the day, just like what we are doing now. And they even fight on the street of that, and you have the book of that time, not the one that you have, and then you have the marker of that time. But again, not about democracy, but about post-democracy.
Yes. Dr. Peter Baofu, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much for availing your time to spend with NUS TV. And I'm sure our audiences, as myself, have, I've been intrigued, I've been educated, I've been enlightened, and I'm sure that our audience have felt the same. Thank you very much for being part of this discussion. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of our program for After